All right. Yesterday we played a super fun game for Bible. You guys did a great job trying on all those clothes and then yelling at the screen. I am made in God's image, right? You guys did awesome with that. That game was really fun. Now, someone tell me, what do I use a mirror for,
Miss,
Matthias?
I couldn't submit math.
I'm sorry. What?
We cannot submit math. It doesn't say add submission.
Oh, all right. I'll fix it.
Okay.
Someone tell me, Marcos, what is a mirror used for?
A mirror is used for like if you look at like something, and if like you want to comb your hair or something, you can look in the mirror and see like how you want it, and you can see your face.
Good. If you want to see how you look or you want to do your hair, you might use a mirror. Marley, what do you think?
You can look at
Oh, your mic cut off too quick.
you can look at yourself.
Good. You could look at yourself. Vic, what else could you use a mirror for?
Let's say you're doing your makeup, you can just like look at the mirror, you can put lipstick, you can put on the shadow, you can put eyeliner, you can put everything like that. You can see how you're doing it, how you want it, and everything.
Good, awesome. So if you are putting on your makeup, you could see how you're doing, if you're doing a good job or not. Samuel?
You can use the mirror when you're driving and you don't have those when you have those mirrors, you can look behind if there's any person.
Good.
Or you could use two of the mirrors in case if you want to see how are you, if you're going to an elegant wedding, you need to see in the mirror how are you, how you're looking.
Good. So if you're going somewhere and you need to use your mirrors to help you drive and see where you're going and not back into things and stuff, or if someone's on the side of you so you don't crash into them. Also, if you want to go somewhere nice, you want to make sure you look nice. Good. Yep. A mirror reflects our image. You are correct. We could check to make sure our hair is not sticking out all funny or we don't have stuff in our teeth, right? A similar thing we do is we take selfies, right? I could take my cell phone here and I could check myself out using my selfie. I can flip my camera around and say, oh, yep, there's Mrs. Garcia and she's teaching her class. And I could take a selfie of what I look like, right? Maybe you want to show off your new look. So you take a picture of yourself to see what you look like to share with your friends. Or maybe you just want to be silly and take a cute picture with a friend or a silly, goofy picture with a friend. But we like to use our phones and our cameras to see what we look like, right? Maybe you like how you look. Maybe you got a new haircut, new glasses, maybe you got a tattoo or something, I don't know. Maybe you like what you look, but maybe there's a part of you that you just never really like when you look in the mirror or in a selfie and you think, oh, I wish that part was a little bit different, or I don't like how my nose looks, or gosh, my chin looks silly, or my eyes are too big or too close together, or my hair is terrible today. So sometimes we look in a mirror or in our phone and we like what we see. But sometimes we look and we think, ugh, not again, or why do I have to look that way, right? Maybe you don't like to accept that image that you see in the mirror. Did you guys know that billions and billions of dollars are spent each year as people try to change their image in different ways on social media or in advertising, even in the shows that you watch? Lots of money is spent to help you think that you need to look a certain way or buy certain clothes or do your hair special.
Miss,
Marcos?
like some people put like they get a surgery that changes their face, like the what is it called, plastic surgery.
Yeah.
And then they end up to like from being like nice, they end up being like their face gets kind of like puffy sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes we spend money to make ourselves look different with plastic surgery or a new hairstyle or a new color hair. And sometimes it goes wrong, and then we end up looking more goofy than we did when we started out. Marley?
People spend millions to trillions of money on plastic surgery, and then they, because their nose doesn't look that good or something, and then they end up looking like Groot.
Yeah. Or they might spend that money to pay a trainer to help them get in shape, or someone to come and give them a new wardrobe. They spend money on their clothes, their makeup, their hair, all sorts of things that we spend money on to make ourselves look different. And some of those things are okay. It's okay to get in shape, right? But if we become obsessed with it, and we can't even see how beautiful we are anymore because we're just always thinking how not beautiful we are, then that's when it becomes a problem. Samuel?
And sometimes we don't realize that we had stuff that other people don't have, and then we waste all that money, and we just realize that instead of wasting it to make me beautiful, I could have wasted it in a training to help me look better in my fitness, not in this plastic surgery to make me look more nicer.
Good. Sebastian?
What?
You had your hand up.
Nothing.
Okay. Marcos?
I used to think like when I was in like 6 years old or than 7, I used to think that I was fat. And
Yeah,
then I
but were
went,
you really fat?
yeah. And then really went and saw, and then I used to tell my mom and dad that I was always super fat, and then I would end up being like not fat at all.
Yeah, because sometimes we don't see our true self. We look in that mirror and we think we see what we look like, but really our brain is making us believe things that aren't really true. Okay, so lots of times, if I asked you to draw a picture of what you look like, it would be far uglier than if I had an artist come and draw a picture of what you actually look like. Because when we think about ourselves, lots of times we focus on one thing and we think that one thing makes us so ugly and we draw that. But an artist who doesn't know you could come in and draw exactly what you look like, and you would see that you look beautiful. All right. And the beautiful thing that I'm here to tell you today is that God created you. And it wasn't just some chance that you are made exactly as you are. God meant for you to have the hair that you have. He made you those eyes, your chin. He created his masterpiece. He is the true artist, and he made each of you exactly as he wanted you to be. So even if you don't think it's quite perfect, I want you to know that God thinks it's perfect. God created you just how he wants you to be. Samuel?
And like the Bible said, we were created as the image of God.
Exactly. We were created in his image. And in Psalm 139, verses 13 and 14, there is a beautiful 2 verses. And I want to read to you what it says in Psalm 139. It says, "You made all this delicate inner parts of my body, and you knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. Your workmanship is marvelous. How well I know it." All right. I love how this verse gives such detail about how we were made in our mom's belly. God knit us together, all the organs and the cells and the body parts that we would have, just like we've been talking about in science. Our DNA, what we look like, our personalities, they were all made exactly how God wanted them to be. God doesn't do anything by accident, and that includes making you. Do you know how many individual cells are in your body? Samuel, do you know?
What?
You had your hand up. Do you know how many cells are in your body?
Like about 4 trillion
Oh,
cells?
you're close. Even more than that.
What?
When we look it up, when we look it up in National Geographic, we find out that approximately 37.2 trillion cells are in your body. Not
I said-
37, not
I
30.
said quadrillion.
Okay, not 37 million, not 37 billion, 37 trillion. Well, 37.2 trillion to be exact. That is a lot of detail that went into you and went into me. This might not be exactly how many people have, but it's a basic estimate within the last 10 years. In other words, it's a lot. And God made each of those 37.2 trillion cells in each of the people on earth. And right now, in 2021, there was about 7.9 billion people on the earth. And if each of those had 37.2 trillion cells, any math people out there want to do the math? All right, Samuel. What is 37.2 trillion times 7.9 billion?
Okay, I will do it.
All right.
Wait, what's the question again?
I'm just joking. All right. You don't really have to do it because, in other words, it would be a lot, like a whole lot, like a ton of zeros. And God made each of them. He made each cell and everybody on planet. Wow. No wonder he took Sunday off to rest. It's kind of hard to wrap our brains around all that God created. But what I'm always amazed about is how intricate and amazing the human body is. Just like we've been studying in our science class, everything in the body works together in a specific way, even the cells. And another really cool thing about how God created us is that he did not just create us randomly. God created us, just like Samuel said, in his image. What? So, I mean, if we held up a mirror, we could see that we all still look different, right? And we are not God, but we are created in his image. And because of that, we were made to reflect his image to the world. Okay, hands down for a minute, okay? In Genesis 1:27, it says, so God created human beings in his image, in the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. And then in Genesis 5:1-2, it says, this is written account of the descendants of Adam. When God created human beings, he made them to be like himself. He created them male and female, and he blessed them and he called them human. And then later on in Genesis 9:6, it says, for God made human beings in his own image. So right there in those three different parts, it tells us again and again and again that God created us in his image. If we look at dictionary.com, the word image could mean any of these things. It could mean a physical likeness or representation of a person, an animal, or a thing, photographed, painted, sculptured, or otherwise made visible. Or the word image could mean an optical counterpart or an appearance of an object that is produced by reflection from a mirror, a refracted lens, or the passage of luminous rays through a small aperture and the reception on the surface. So in other words, a reflection or a picture And an image could mean a mental representation, like an idea or a conception, or it could mean a mental representation of something previously perceived in the absence of original stimulus. That means that, in other words, we are a physical representation of God, and God has been made visible through us. Okay, so if someone doesn't know God, they haven't got to know God, they should be able to look at you and they should be able to see some aspects of God reflected in who you are. So God was up in heaven all by himself, and then he just decided to create humans. But he didn't create us to be like plants or trees or even animals. He made us special. He made us like himself. Does this mean that we look just like God? Well, we can't be totally sure about that. But what we are sure of is that we reflect God's character. We represent God in the physical world, the world that we live in here on earth. That is pretty huge. That's a big deal. God made me to reflect him. God made you to reflect him. God loves you so much that he made you like himself. That is just amazing. God loves and accepts us just as we are because he's the one who created us. He created us so that he'd have people to love and care for. How beautiful is that? And when you're feeling down about yourself or what you look like, I want you to think back on those verses. God knit you together so intricately, so amazingly, that you could reflect him to the world. So step 1 was that for God to create us like himself, but step 2 is where our lives and our actions come into play. It's one thing to be made into God's image, but it's another thing to live and to act like it. God made us with the ability to make choices. We can make good ones, or we can make bad ones. We can choose to live in a way that reflects God, or we can choose to live in a way that doesn't reflect him at all. Can you imagine how sad that must make God? In 1 Corinthians 6:19 reminds us that our bodies are God's temple. It says, don't you realize that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit who lives in you and was given to you by God? You do not belong to yourself. You see, we weren't created just to do whatever we want. We were created to be a temple. We belong to God. So we should treat our bodies well, right? I made a joke earlier about what we might look like, but I really mean it. God doesn't want us to put bad things into our bodies that are made to reflect him. So we shouldn't do things that will hurt our bodies. Okay, so even if we go and work out and work out and work out, that's okay, but we don't want to do it to the point where we're hurting ourselves. Some of us may struggle with what we put in our mouth. Maybe we eat too much, or we don't eat enough, or we eat things that are not healthy for us. But our bodies are God's temple, and we need to treat our bodies with the respect that they deserve. That doesn't mean that we can't enjoy good food. God put good food on earth for us to enjoy. But it does mean that we need to make wise choices about how we treat our body. Okay? We weren't created to do just whatever we want. We were created to be a temple. In Isaiah 43:7, it says, bring all who claim me as their God, for I have made them for my glory. It was I who created them. God created us. He created us for his glory and not our own. He wants everything we do, every choice that we make, to reflect his glory to the world, just like a mirror reflects my face. Our bodies and the lives that we live reflect God to the world. That sounds like a lot of pressure, right? but God doesn't expect us to get it right all of the time. He had a feeling that we might make some bad choices, and the important thing is that when we do mess up, that we ask him for forgiveness. The important thing is that the direction our lives are going is towards God and towards reflecting his glory. It's a process. And as we grow, we learn to be more and more like him. In Colossians 3:10, it says, "Put on your new nature and be renewed as you learn to know your creator and become like him." Putting on a new nature means that when we give our hearts to God and lives to God, he gives us a new nature, a new way to live, to become more like him. This verse reminds us that the way to be more like God is to continue learning and getting to know our creator. We can do this by coming here to school and learning together. We can learn about God as we explore together, and we can learn at home from our parents if they are Christians, and by reading our Bible and by praying to God. As we learn about who God is, we'll want to become more like him. So, one way we can become more like God is to become more loving, more kind, and more good. In 2 Corinthians 3:18, it says, "So all of us who have a veil removed can see and reflect the glory of the Lord. And the Lord, who is the Spirit, makes us more and more like him as we are changed into his glorious image." The Spirit of God inside of us, when we become a Christian, we receive that Spirit in our hearts, and the Spirit helps us to make those daily choices to be more and more like God. And the more that we become like him, the more we are changed into his glorious image that will be reflected to the world. In Ephesians 4:24, it says, "Put on your new nature, created to be like God, truly righteous and holy." The beauty of this is that as we put on our new nature, as we live in our new created image of God, we become more like him. We will live good lives, and other people will take notice, and they will want to have what we have, and will want to tell them all about it. Matthias.
That I tried to can you hear me?
Yes.
I tried to submit the the math homework, and the maximum file is just one picture.
Matthias, we're in the middle of Bible right now, so that can wait until later. All right. Any questions or thoughts about what it means to be made in the image of God? All right, then you guys are free to go. We're gonna keep talking about that this week. Tomorrow we have a super fun Bible lesson planned, so I'm looking forward to that. Marcos?
I have a question, but it's not about Bible. It's about, that song that sometimes you would put on in class of Would You Rather? Do you know by who is it? Because my mom wanted to put it on for PE.
The game, like the sports one?
Yeah.
I just put Would You Rather, like class activity, and it comes up on
Oh,
YouTube.
okay.
All right.
And we can leave, right, Miss?
You may leave. You need to go to your special at 9:50. You have PE. All right. And Matthias, I just updated Moodle, so it should be fine now.
Oh,
Okay, you might have to sign out and sign back in, and then it will work.
okay.
Mr. Sia,
Sebastian,
we did not do anything for the Bible, right?
you don't have to turn in anything for Bible. Today was just listening.
So we just had to do math and nothing else right now.
So far, yep.
Okay.
All right.